It kind of feels like, am I the elephant in the room or the lion in the den?
Site centricity and the site voice is absolutely essential. If you would add a magic wand and you could get something out of what is currently happening and something in that you would like to see in clinical research, what would it be?
The biggest challenge for a site is
the Clinical Data Lighthouse, partnerships on the road to Vision 2030. So thank you. I'm here together with Viviënne van der Walle, and you're wearing several hats, but you have been a founder, you have been a director of, and also a research physician of your own research site, PTNR, I understood. And so thank you so much for being here, because that site centricity and the site voice is absolutely essential for Society of Clinical Data Management. So I want to first thank you very much for...
Well, thank you for the invite. Okay. Yeah, it kind of feels like, am I the elephant in the room or the lion in the den? But I feel like I'm being embraced. So it's more like a teddy bear being cuddled.
Yes, but that's because it's so important. And so we really thank you for you to make time. Let's immediately get into the elephant of the room, maybe. Clinical trial and clinical research in general has increased in complexity tremendously. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that burden has come on site. So can you share a little bit on what can we do? What are the biggest benefits you can see if we can simplify things at site? Any reflections there that we can help?
Yeah, so we are in a data-driven world. I mean, we need data to validate the claims that we want to make and get the drugs in the market eventually. Mm-hmm. So it's not that we're data averse, it's just the way that we're collecting the data is quite challenging. It's taking time. And that is taking time from us away from our patients. And we're now data managers. We're merely collecting the data for data managers to use it. So what we as a site are facing is the complexity of the systems where data is being gathered, and it's all coming together in one place, which is a site. And then we have to navigate our patients to all these systems just as well to be able to collect all the data. And I think that is the biggest challenge. And you probably know my quote that we sometimes feel we're trapped in a bad escape room, going from one system to the other one. And it's anywhere between 10 and 15 systems we're dealing with per protocol. And that is the biggest challenge. Fortunately, I do see more and more collaborations where it's making easier. Systems are communicating, logins are simplified. So, but I think we have to be aware we're in the learning curve of how to make it simple and how to make it feasible to work with it.
So one main factor is also simplifying the technology you have to deal with and making sure you have more time for the patients ultimately.
Yeah, yes.
Exactly. Yes. And then maybe on the other side of the spectrum, what excites you with all the excitement around technology and then clinical research is evolving very rapidly. You see a lot more real-world data that we can also bring into the proof of whether or not treatment is good for patients. You see electronic health records, hopefully much more digital available so that you don't have to kind of scrap or type in all the data. So yeah, what excites you most of all the future and where we potentially are going?
And I am excited and I love technology, despite being a physician. I was raised with engineers, so no, but what excites me is that I do believe it will bring higher quality data. And I was just at the AI session, seeing how far quicker you can get protocol deviations and pick up signals. It's things like that will speed up the process of the whole pipeline getting into the market. The other thing that excites me is, besides the high data quality and the timeline, I think is that we can provide more to patients, also an insight that they can reflect and see the data that they're collecting, that they can actually see them themselves. It's not something that is shoved away in a corner and then, they don't know really what they're contributing to. But now we can actually make them part of the journey and they see what they are actually contributing to. And keep them motivated to stay on the trial as well.
So returning the data not only for sites, so like protocol deviations that what is going on much faster, but also how can we make sure that the data goes back to the patient?
Yes.
Because that's ultimately very important. The human element, AI will probably play a factor, but we're here actually only for humans and patients. So how do we make sure that the patients remain at the center of everything we do? Any thoughts there?
Ask sites, have them involved at the drawing table when you're developing protocols, but also during a trial. I've conducted a trial where we did get some interim analysis data that we could provide back to the patients, and they would actually see what they're contributing to. No matter what trial you're doing, there's trial fatigue with patients. And it's our obligation and our goal to keep them engaged in the trial, to have them finish until the end. And sometimes it's difficult to explain to patients why it is crucial for them to continue in the trial. They say, hey, but I've been here for, 75% of the time. What is the final 25% going to add to my data? And especially when they're pretty convinced they're in a placebo group. And, if they see what they're part of the whole thing, and I sometimes make the comparison, if you want to test a car, you don't want 3 wheels on the car, you want all 4 wheels on the car to make sure that the car is a good car. So giving that perspective, if despite the fact you might be on a placebo or you might be a non-responder and you don't see the benefits, but this is the whole ecosystem that you're a part of. This is why it's so important for you to finish the trial until the final visit. But if I'm only telling the story, I need to be a good storyteller. But if I have data to hang me up and showed it to them, like, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're doing, this is what we've achieved, and this is our aim and our goal, it's far easier for me to get it on board.
Yeah, thank you for that. Patient's choice and patient's voice is one of the key pillars that we want to emphasize a lot more, and how do we embrace that in the future. And so choice is sometimes about decentralized clinical trials as well. How much can we make protocols more flexible so that patients who cannot travel, that we can do some things locally? And during COVID, home health nursing was more typical, but it's a bit unfortunate sometimes, as you see, that we go back to everyone go on site. Of course, a clinical trial is always very controlled. But so, what is your take on choice of what to do centrally, what to do locally? How can we make patients get better choices so that they actually opt to go into clinical trials?
Yes,
it's hard.
We've done decentralized trials for ages. I've been in the business for 28 years. I'm always scared to say it out loud. But we had e-diaries for, I think, almost 20 years now or something. Or even before that, they would use a phone and answer questions on an IVRS system. So we've done decentralized elements. And so I rather talk about clinical trials for decentralized elements instead of decentralized trials, because we've been doing that. The biggest challenge for a site is to make it tailor fit for each and every patient within the same protocol. So one wants this, the other one wants that. And then we have to adapt to whatever every patient wants and needs and can do. But also how to budget all of the different things, because a home visit is far more expensive, both financially, but also from a time perspective, compared to an in-house visit at my site. And you have to carry everything along. And there's a whole infrastructure that you need to do it. So it's not like, oh, we do this and we do that, and we can implement it tomorrow. There's far more we have to arrange around that. But I think it is important to give patients that option. Although even during COVID, what we found, despite the fact that we would be able to do a lot of things remote, a lot of patients love coming to the clinic and having that human interaction. And I think if we all reflect on back at COVID, nobody thought that we were going back into face-to-face meetings. And now everybody is so happy we're doing face-to-face, because there's far more interaction. You can do far more, and you do spend more time than when you're doing things virtually. And I think that's also the thing that patients are feeling like. I sit down, I can actually see the doctors, speak to the doctors, see the nurse and the coordinator, and they can do some extra things if necessary. But it is important to understand that patient need what is this patient? And another one might be a student going to school saying like, I can't get out of school every time to do this visit. And then we need to find a solution for that. So it does require a lot of flexibility and creative thinking from both us, but also I think from the sponsors.
Yeah, thank you for that balanced perspective too, because we give all that flexibility, it might put again more burden on the side, which we want to avoid as well. Maybe to conclude, maybe a funny question, but if you would have a magic wand and you could get something out of what is currently happening and something in that you would like to see in clinical research, what would it be?
I think it was Parag Lipsik who said, we don't have a technology issue, we have a login issue. Meaning that if we could simplify login, even if you have, and I think it's not something that's going to happen overnight that we are going to have one system where we log in. But if we can have just one login for the various systems, that would make it already easier. Unfortunately, I do see some sponsors doing that, using, I don't know what the technology behind it is. That's not my profession, but I go to the website and get like, hey, it's again the same login details I can use. That simplifies it because we have to change these login details every 6 to 8 weeks. And if you have like 15 portals in a study, and you're not running one study at a time, just imagine how much admin we're just having in just remembering all our login details. So if we could simplify the login, I think that is something. And the other big thing, and it's something that I've been shouting at, and there's another very nice lady in America, Kay Doyle, saying, like, can we have a patient -1? Meaning that before we actually see our first patient, can we have a mock visit? Can we go through all the systems so we don't look stupid when we do have our first patient, where it's actually where we do get into all the systems for the very first time. Of course, we had our trainings, and of course, we know how the system works, but we don't know how to conduct a visit 1 because we don't get a manual how to conduct that visit 1 or the visit 2 or visit 3. How are you going to do that? So as long as we don't have a structured system, can we at least have a sandbox environment for all the systems to actually do that first visit and have them go through all the systems? So patient -1.
I like that very much. And we before this podcast, we talked about the fingerprints and the fingerprint logo.
Yeah.
Anyway, from a login perspective, hopefully we get to a point where you just
actually
use your thumb and actually
10 years ago, we had systems that were doing that.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it was...
We'll get at the bottom of that. So, but thank you so much.
And one thing that's more reliable than doing facial recognition.
Exactly.
If you have a twin.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you have a picture, whatever, that doesn't work.
Yeah, so fingerprints is far more reliable.
I fully agree with you. But thank you so much for your perspective.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.